From blind tiger to digital revelation, I've always considered Alibaba to be a very lucky company. Honestly, there was no guarantee we would survive. I don't have a rich father or powerful uncles. I remember in 1999, I came to Silicon Valley looking for venture capitalists. I talked to a lot of them, and I recall driving past Menlo Park, rejected by so many capitalists when I spoke about Alibaba. They'd look at me strangely, saying, "What Alibaba? What are you talking about?" When I discovered the internet in 1994, it was like a revelation. Imagine an English teacher in China, a country that hadn't yet embraced the digital revolution, finding something so vast and full of opportunities. I always joke that I felt like a blind man riding a blind tiger. I didn't know where it would take me, but I was willing to try. It was a leap into the unknown. I quit my job as a teacher and plunged headlong into this adventure with no guarantee of success. That was the first lesson of entrepreneurship, to take risks. Turning challenges into opportunities has always been my motto. When I started talking about the internet to people around me, many thought I was crazy. "Jack, it'll never work," they told me, but I knew it was the start of something big. Sometimes the greatest ideas seem insane at first. The key is to have the courage to keep going, even when others doubt you. The internet was chaos at the time. Nobody knew exactly how to navigate it. But I was determined to learn. Looking back today, I see that it was this willingness to throw myself into the unknown that planted the seeds of what Alibaba would become. If you want to build something big, you can't be afraid of making mistakes. When I started my journey, all I had was passion and the belief that I could make a difference. I could have given up at the first hurdle, but I was determined to see where this new adventure would take me. What did I discover? That success is often born out of chaos. Betting on the small and might Ikea needed an e-commerce site. And building up the Chinese market takes effort, time, and great dedication. At that time, people said, "There's no chance." Well, if you never try, how do you know there's no chance? So we tried, and I said, if eBay are the sharks in the ocean, we are the crocodiles in the Yangtze River. Never fight in the ocean. Let's fight in the Yangtze River. When I founded Alibaba in 1999, no one believed in me. I traveled to Silicon Valley seeking investment for my idea but was repeatedly rejected. I remember walking down the famous Sandhill Road where many investors looked at me in disbelief. They couldn't understand what I was proposing. I returned to China with no money, but with one thing that couldn't be taken away from me: the American dream. I believed I could transform the way small businesses operated by connecting them to the world. It was then that I realized the importance of focusing on small and medium-sized businesses. While large corporations already had their structures in place, I saw SMEs as the driving force behind China's future. I deeply believed that they were the pillar of the country's economic growth, which is why I decided to bet on them. Instead of trying to conquer the giants, I decided to build something that would help the little ones, and that's how Alibaba was born. A platform created to empower small businesses and enable them to thrive. I remember the initial difficulties, but I never thought of giving up. As I said before, if eBay is the shark in the ocean, we are the crocodiles in the Yangtze River. It was our territory. The conditions were difficult, but we were prepared to fight smart. We didn't have the financial backing, but we had the passion, the resilience, and above all, the confidence that we were on the right track. Alibaba started small but grew based on this clear vision that the future was in the hands of small businesses. I believed that 5 years later, China would have more internet users than the USA. People would say, "No way. You only have 300 million people. China has 1.3 billion. I'd reply, "For you guys to have 400 million internet users without anybody dying and constantly having babies, it will take you 50 years. We need 5 years. It's just a matter of time. So let's wait and see." The power of stupid innovation has always been the driving force behind Alibaba's success. When we created Alipay, many called it a stupid model. The idea of having an intermediary account to make payments seemed absurd to some, but we knew it was exactly what small businesses and consumers needed. Sometimes the most revolutionary ideas are those that at first glance seem strange or nonsensical. Innovation lies in creating what the market needs, even if the world doesn't understand it yet. By building something innovative like Alipay, we were challenging the status quo. We knew that there was no proper credit system in China and that electronic transactions were still viewed with suspicion. But instead of waiting for external improvements, we decided to create our own solution. It was a lesson I learned early on. You don't have to wait until the system is perfect to start innovating. As I always say, stupid things, if improved daily, can become very smart. Innovation isn't just technological, it's also strategic. You must always be ahead of market needs, and this often means taking risks. Entrepreneurs need the courage to challenge conventions and believe in their visions. In the end, Alipay became an essential service for millions of Chinese, and what was once considered a silly idea is now a pillar in global e-commerce. Don't be afraid to look ridiculous at first. The market will always recognize the value of an innovation that solves real problems. Finding opportunity in adversity. Me thinking was that in China, we have some successful foreign companies like Microsoft, IBM, Oracle, a lot of great companies. And these foreign companies in China are very successful. Doing business anywhere, doing business takes time. So I believe that doing business today, everywhere in the world, is difficult. My wife and I were debating yesterday morning while driving. She thinks, oh no, it's so difficult to do business in the USA because they have Walmart chains everywhere. Even coffee is a chain. She asked, how can you have a small business? And I said, wow. In the US, it's easy for a small business to do well. We should have a big debate which country is easier to do business in, the US or China. When you're innovating in a market like China, you quickly realize that conditions aren't always ideal. Many people told me that it would be impossible to build an e-commerce system in a country without a logistics infrastructure or a robust credit system. My response: that's exactly why we need entrepreneurs. I never believed that difficulties were insurmountable obstacles. On the contrary, they were signs that we were on the right track to creating something that would transform the market. Every challenge we faced became an opportunity to do something different. We didn't have a proper credit system, so we created Alipay. Logistics were complicated, so we helped build the foundations for a system that could support the growth of e-commerce. The difficulties of operating in an environment that seemed to be against us only strengthened our resolve. If you want to change the business world, you need to be prepared to solve the problems that no one else wants to face. The wisdom of mistakes. You're right. When we have money, we start to make mistakes. When we have money, we have a beautiful office. We hire people with MBA degrees. We hire VPs from multinational corporations. And when we have a little bit of money, we start thinking about globalization. Speaking of problems, failure was never off my radar. In fact, it has always been by my side, reminding me that every mistake is a lesson. People often ask me about Alibaba's success, but the truth is that we made 1001 mistakes along the way. It was from those mistakes that we learned to build what we are today. People like to talk about Alibaba's success, but honestly, what taught me the most were the mistakes we made along the way. We've made so many mistakes that I could easily write a book titled Alibaba's 101 Mistakes. And that's not an exaggeration. I always say that if you want to learn how people succeed, it's hard to replicate, but if you want to learn from failure, there's a lot to absorb. Every mistake we make prepares us for the next challenge. Making mistakes is part of the learning process. Each time we fall, we get up stronger and more aware of our weaknesses. In the beginning, we made decisions that could have led Alibaba to failure, but instead of giving up, we analyzed where we had gone wrong and corrected course. For entrepreneurs, failure should not be an end but a powerful learning tool. The lessons we learn from our mistakes are the foundations on which we build our success. And it is this continuous learning that has made me value something even more important than immediate success: personal growth and education. It's not how much you earn that defines your future, but how willing you are to learn and develop. After all, it's personal development that drives real progress. I have always believed that the future does not belong to those who have the most money, but to those who are the best educated. Personal growth and continuous learning are essential for success. I remember well how I left my job as a teacher to follow my dream of creating something big. I knew that knowledge was the only tool I really had, and that's what gave me the confidence to move forward, even without financial resources or backing from big investors. Education goes far beyond what we learn at school. In the business world, learning to adapt to change and be flexible in the face of adversity is crucial. That's why I've always encouraged my team to invest in their own development. Knowing more is not just a competitive advantage, it's the basis for innovation and the ability to face the challenges that inevitably arise. If you want to grow, you have to be willing to keep learning. The endurance of vision. Speaking of challenges, learning to overcome rejection was one of the greatest lessons I learned. Resilience is undoubtedly one of the most important qualities I have developed over the years. After being rejected so many times, I could have given up, but I kept believing in my dream. After so many rejections, especially during my visits to Silicon Valley, I learned an important lesson: resilience is the key to success. I could have given up with every no I received, but it was precisely this ability to persist that kept me on track. As I always say, when everything seems to be against you, that's when you need to believe in your dream even more. The rejections I faced were not signs of failure. but opportunities to adjust my strategy. Resilience is more than simply resisting, it's about learning from difficulties and growing from them. Each no gave me a reason to keep trying. What many people don't realize is that initial failure doesn't define who you are, but how you react to it. I knew I was on the right track, even when the doors closed. What kept me motivated was the long-term vision and the certainty that with patience and persistence, success would come. And it was precisely this long-term vision that guided the development of Alibaba. We weren't just building a company for the present. We were building something that would have a lasting impact for decades to come, and it's this vision of the future that I want to talk about now. Building for decades, not days from the beginning. I've always believed that to build something truly great, you need to think long-term. When we started Alibaba, we weren't just focused on immediate success. We were creating a foundation that could last for decades. I always say that when you build something, you have to think 10, 20 years ahead, not just now. This was crucial to our growth. Our goal wasn't to be a company that grew quickly and disappeared. We wanted something sustainable and long-lasting. Long-term vision also involves a dose of patience. Many entrepreneurs are obsessed with quick wins, but real success comes from those who can see beyond the immediate rewards. At Alibaba, we made decisions that might not bring quick results, but which were in line with our long-term strategy. This allowed us to create an ecosystem rather than just a company. Understanding the impact we wanted to make helped us stay focused even in the most difficult times. And it is exactly this mentality that has shaped Alibaba's culture. We never wanted to be just a business empire. Our mission has always been to build an ecosystem where small and medium-sized businesses can thrive and connect. Let's explore how this culture has been the foundation of everything we've done. An ecosystem of growth and trust from the beginning. Our vision at Alibaba was very clear. We didn't want to build an empire, but an ecosystem. I strongly believe that success comes not just from competition, but from collaboration. That's why we have always encouraged a business culture that promotes the growth of everyone. From small businesses to large partners, Alibaba's strength lies in how we help others grow. When small businesses thrive, we thrive with them. This mentality has shaped our approach to business. At Alibaba, we're not interested in crushing the competition, but in creating an environment where everyone can flourish. Our culture is founded on the idea that one person's success doesn't have to mean another's failure. This has created a solid network of trust, innovation, and mutual support. After all, for an ecosystem to thrive, each part needs to contribute to the whole. I've always believed that true success isn't measured by how much you earn, but by how much you help others grow. And speaking of competition, many people ask me how we stand up to giants like eBay. The answer is simple. While they were the sharks in the ocean, we decided to be the crocodiles in the Yangtze River. We chose our own battlefield, where we knew the conditions and where we could play by our own rules. When we started competing with eBay in China, many said there was no chance. They were a global giant and dominated the e-commerce market. But I've always believed that it's not about who's bigger, but who knows the battlefield best. If eBay is the shark in the ocean, we are the crocodiles in the Yangtze River. This metaphor has always helped me illustrate the importance of playing on our home turf, where we know the market, the consumers, and the local peculiarities. For me, competition has never been something to be afraid of, but rather an opportunity to improve. Every competitor we have faced has forced us to innovate, to think creatively, and to find new ways of offering value to our customers. In the business world, competition is a driving force for growth. If someone isn't pushing you, you won't have the motivation to constantly improve. And it was exactly this pressure that led us to create something unique. This mindset of embracing competition has helped us build a solid foundation. Focused on supporting small businesses, we have always believed that the future of China and the world lies in the hands of small and medium-sized enterprises. They are the engine of innovation and economic growth, and that's why we always bet on them. Championing small businesses and visionary leadership from the very beginning, Alibaba's focus has always been on small and medium-sized businesses. I've always believed they're the backbone of any economy, and in them, I saw China's true growth potential while many focused on large corporations. I knew that small businesses were the future. As I've always said, if you want to help a country's economy, start with small businesses. And that's exactly what we did at Alibaba. Small businesses have something special. They're agile, innovative, and incredibly resilient. While large companies face bureaucratic hurdles, small ones can adapt quickly to market changes. This agility has helped millions of small businesses in China flourish. Through Alibaba, we created a platform that gave them access to the world, allowing them to grow sustainably and reach new markets. This is the spirit that drives Alibaba's culture to this day. By supporting these small businesses, we not only help strengthen the economy but also create a thriving ecosystem where everyone can grow. But for all of this to work, you need visionary leadership, someone willing to pave the way for the future. Leading a company like Alibaba means always being one step ahead. I knew that to ensure long-term success, we had to prepare for the future with a clear vision. I believe that true leadership lies not just in making decisions for the present, but in anticipating the challenges of the coming years. If anything goes wrong in the next 3 years, it will be my fault, I used to say. A visionary leader must accept this kind of responsibility. When you lead, you need to prepare your team for the challenges ahead, not just for what's happening now. My mission in building Alibaba was to prepare the ground for others to continue to grow. A good leader doesn't just focus on the present, they shape the path to the future. That's what separates an ordinary leader from a visionary one. Vision is what guides strategic decisions and ensures a business's sustainability. To prepare for the future, we also need to measure our success in ways that go beyond just profit. For me, true success is measured by the positive impact we have on society, especially on the lives of the millions of small businesses we help. And it's this impact that I want to talk about next. Impact over profit, the true measure of success. When I look at Alibaba's success, what I'm most proud of is not how much money we've made, but the impact we've had on the lives of millions of small businesses and entrepreneurs. For me, true success goes far beyond the financial bottom line. I've always said that success is measured by how much you help others grow. What we do at Alibaba is more than business. We're transforming society by giving opportunities to people who wouldn't otherwise have access to them before the internet. It was virtually impossible for a small business in China to reach global markets. But today, through Alibaba, millions of small businesses have a platform to sell their products all over the world. I couldn't be prouder of that. Our impact goes beyond e-commerce. We're helping to build an ecosystem of opportunities, and at the end of the day, that's what truly matters, how much we can transform lives. However, in order to continue having this impact, it's essential to recognize that we can't work around the clock. Even the most dedicated leaders need a moment to reflect and rest. And this is where the importance of stopping to recharge comes in. After many years at the helm of Alibaba, I realized something fundamental. Even the most determined leaders need time to rest and reflect. I remember how, after 16 exhausting years of work, I decided to take a year off. Even my own company didn't know I was going to do this, and it came as a surprise to everyone. But I knew that in order to continue leading with clarity and efficiency, I needed time to recharge my batteries and rethink my next strategies. Rest is not a sign of weakness, but of intelligence. During this period, I took the opportunity to relax in ways that many would not have expected. I took up golf again, a hobby that helped me clear my head and temporarily distance myself from the challenges of everyday life. Some people ask me if I was just running away from my responsibilities. But the truth is that this time off was essential to re-energize myself and come back even more prepared to face what was to come. I believe that when we're rested, we make much better and more strategic decisions. As for online games, well, I've never been a fan. I always joke that for me, the best game is making money by helping small businesses thrive. Playing golf and keeping my mind clear has prepared me to face challenges with clarity. After all, it's impossible to lead well if you're overwhelmed and exhausted. And one thing I always value in this leadership process is transparency. When you're in charge of something as big as Alibaba, transparency is key to gaining the trust of everyone around you. The power of transparency and learning from authority. Believe that in the business world, transparency is one of the greatest virtues a leader can have. When we lead a company, especially a large one like Alibaba, being transparent with our employees, partners, and customers is crucial. I've always said that in the digital age, everything must be clear. There is no more room for secrets or manipulation. The trust we build with our customers and partners is what keeps us strong. And that trust can only be guaranteed with total honesty. I used to joke that if I didn't follow Chinese law, I'd have to have coffee every week in Beijing, referring to the importance of abiding by the rules and being transparent in all decisions. Integrity in the business world isn't just a question of ethics, it's a strategy for sustainable success. If you want your company to prosper in the long term, you need to ensure that you're doing everything clearly and correctly. This creates an environment of trust, both inside and outside the company, and makes people want to work with you. Honesty is also essential for learning from mistakes. Instead of trying to cover up or deny problems, I've always believed that we should face our mistakes head-on and learn from them. Each mistake, if dealt with openly and honestly, can be a valuable source of growth. And that brings me to my next point. Learning from other people's mistakes is an essential skill for any entrepreneur, if there's one thing I've learned along my journey, it's that you can avoid a lot of problems just by observing other people's mistakes. I always say that if you want to learn from someone's success, it's very difficult to replicate it. Success is full of unpredictable factors, however. Mistakes have clear patterns and are repeated in different companies. That's why one of my biggest lessons was to pay attention to how companies fail so as not to make the same mistakes. At Alibaba, I often say that if I were to write a book, it wouldn't be about Alibaba's successes, but about the 1001 mistakes we made. Failure is a much more consistent teacher than success. When I look at companies that have failed to achieve their goals, I see that mistakes were often predictable but ignored. If you're willing to learn from other people's mistakes, you'll have a huge advantage. That was one of my strategies when building Alibaba. I observed what other companies were doing wrong and made an effort not to follow suit. Of course, learning from other people's mistakes doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. Mistakes are part of growing up, but the more you absorb the knowledge of other people's failures, the better prepared you will be to avoid your own stumbles. Sustainable growth and embracing change. And one thing I've always prioritized at Alibaba is sustainable growth. We're not looking for quick wins, but growth that makes sense in the long term and benefits society as a whole. One thing I've learned over the years is that making money is actually quite simple. The real challenge is to make money in a sustainable way that brings benefits to society. At Alibaba, we have always focused on a business model that not only seeks immediate profit but also has a positive impact in the long term. I believe that the companies of the future will not only be measured by how much they earn, but by how much they contribute to the well-being of society. I'm always proud to say that Alibaba is not a company that only seeks to maximize profit. We're here to create something that lasts and helps millions of small businesses and entrepreneurs thrive. Our mission is to ensure that everyone grows together in a balanced and sustainable way. This means making decisions that may not be the most profitable in the short term, but which we know will bring greater benefits in the future. Our success is directly linked to the success of the people we serve. This vision of sustainable growth has also kept us focused on how the world around us is changing. To ensure that we continue to grow in a healthy way, we need to be ready to adapt to constant change. Adaptability, more than ever, has become a crucial skill in the business world. The world changes rapidly. If you're not prepared to change with it, you'll be left behind. When I started Alibaba, the scenario was very different from what we see today. There was no structure for e-commerce in China, and many said that our model wouldn't work. But the truth is that the secret to surviving in the business world is not just having the right idea, but being flexible and adaptable. Those who resist change end up being overtaken by those who adapt. I have always believed that adaptability is one of the most important qualities an entrepreneur can have. Market conditions change, technologies evolve, and new opportunities constantly rise. At Alibaba, we were never complacent. We always kept an eye on market changes, ready to adjust our strategy as necessary. This is what has allowed us to grow and prosper even in uncertain times. Entrepreneurs who cling to the status quo are doomed to failure. If you want to succeed, you have to be willing to change, learn, and reinvent yourself. At the end of the day, the business world is dynamic and the only constant is change. Empowering the next generation and creating lasting value as we prepared for the future. We always maintained one certainty: the future belongs to the new generations of leaders who are ready to embrace these changes. Even though I'm getting older, I've always believed that the future is in the hands of young people. Alibaba was built on a young team full of energy and innovative ideas. While many leaders try to centralize power and decisions, I have always known that for a company to continue growing, it is essential to prepare the next generation of leaders. New ideas and the desire to change the world come from young people. They are the agents of innovation. I like to say that my team is young, with an average age of just 26. They are the future of Alibaba and the entire business ecosystem. My role as a leader has always been to create the right conditions for them to flourish and do their best. I trust in their ability to take the company forward, facing the challenges of the future with creativity and innovation. It is the energy of this new generation that will define the next chapter in Alibaba's history, as well as that of many other companies. But for these young leaders to thrive, they need to have a clear purpose and a commitment to creating value, not just for themselves but for society as a whole. That's what motivates me every day, knowing that we are creating a legacy of value for society, something that transcends the simple act of doing business. What keeps me going even after so many years is not money, but the ability to impact lives. Since the beginning of Alibaba, our mission has always been clear: to create value for society. especially for small businesses. For me, true success lies not in the profits we accumulate, but in how much we manage to improve other people's lives. Seeing small businesses thrive through our work is something that fills me with pride when I walk down the street and hear stories of people who, thanks to Alibaba, have managed to start a business, support their families, and make their dreams come true. I know we're on the right track. We are teaching a new generation that success is not just about personal gain, but about the positive impact you can have on the world. I believe that tomorrow's companies will not be measured only by their market value, but by how much they have helped to build a better world. This has always been my mission, to create a company that is a reflection of something bigger, that makes a difference in people's lives. And I invite you to think too, in your work, in your life, how can you generate this kind of value? Because in the end, the true measure of success is the impact we leave on society, something that will always remind us of our purpose. Jack Ma is a living example of how the biggest obstacles can become stepping stones to success. He faced rejection, criticism, and was even considered crazy by many, but his story of overcoming goes far beyond that. In this message, we've explored Jack Ma's most valuable lessons on how to deal with failure, innovate in the midst of chaos, and build a successful mindset. If you believe that failure is the end of the line, I hope this has helped you change that perspective. Jack Ma proved that failure is the best teacher. We've delved into his ideas on the importance of resilience, education, and personal development, as well as understanding how he built Alibaba based on mistakes and challenges. Stay with us, and we'll continue to explore more about Jack Ma's most powerful messages, which have already inspired millions around the world. Jack Ma has always been a distinguished leader known for his unique ability to inspire people. He firmly believes that as a leader, his primary responsibility is to develop other leaders. This is reflected in his approach to empowering his employees, giving them the freedom to make decisions and learn from mistakes. Jack often says that a good leader should be like a compass, always guiding, but without being overly controlling, which creates an environment of innovation and trust. Another fundamental aspect of his leadership is his ability to identify hidden talents. Jack Ma has always been able to recognize skills that often go unnoticed by others. He encourages the hiring of people who have different potentials, who complement the skills of the team, creating a diverse and highly effective team. His focus is less on technical skills and more on people who share the same vision and values. Finally, Jack Ma believes that humility is an important pillar for any leader. Even after achieving global success, he continues to learn from and listen to his subordinates. This behavior, according to him, is essential for maintaining perspective and continuing to grow. Humility in leadership not only generates respect but also creates a culture of collaboration and mutual growth. And as he often says, leaders are responsible for serving, not commanding. One of Jack Ma's most profound lessons is the importance of long-term thinking. Instead of focusing solely on short-term gains, Jack always kept an eye on the future. For Alibaba, he knew that the greatest successes would come from patience and resilience, believing that real growth occurs when you invest in the future rather than chasing quick wins. This strategic thinking helped Alibaba build a foundation strong enough to endure